Okay, so today this is covering what we call function notation. So you'll see instead of y, you'll see f of x, or you could say anything. You could say g of x, j of x, anything that's something of x, where essentially whatever you see in this parentheses is your input, and then when you put it into the problem, it gives you your output. So if you just think of it as y, it's the same thing, right? So y equals negative 2x plus 6. This is in slope-intercept form. F of x equals negative 2x plus 6. It's the same thing. So essentially just think of it as y. All right, so if we're going to graph these, it's the same thing as thinking as y equals negative 2x plus 6. All right, so we're still starting at 6. That's our starting point. Think of this as a fraction, so negative 2 over 1. So we go down 2 to the right 1, 1, 2 here, and we draw our line. All right, so it's exactly the same as if it was a y. Same thing over here. If we're going to graph this, we start at negative 2. That's our y-intercept. Put a dot there, and from that point, up 1 to the right 2. So up 1 to the right 2, put another dot, draw your line through. All right, so don't be confused when you see that. It basically means y. Okay, so now solving for something for function notation, it's basically substitution. So if we're given this equation, all right, it says solve for the following: f of 5, f of negative 2, f of 1. Within this equation, you're just going to substitute this number that's in function notation into the x in this particular problem. Don't worry about putting it in for this one. That has nothing to do with it. This is just our input, and then when we put it in, it gives us our output. So for problems like this, we can approach it the same way with our calculator. So if we bring our calculator up and we type in this information, so we have negative 2, and then what we're going to substitute in, plus 6. All right, so our substitution for f of 5 would be negative 2, parentheses, 5, plus 6. We put that in here. We see that it gives us negative 4. All right, so the same thing for all of these. Negative 2, parentheses, negative 2, because I'm substituting that in, plus 6. What does that give us? So that gives us 10. So we're looking at an input-output scenario here. All right, so for when x is 1, what is the answer? So negative 2, parentheses 1, plus 6. Then type that into your calculator. You get 4. 25, negative 2, parentheses 25, plus 6. That's negative 44. All right, so these relate to basically your inputs. So if I had an ordered pair for f of 5, my ordered pair would be 5, comma, negative 4. So there's your input for x equals your y, your output. All right, so you're going to see things, also they could say for g of x equals 3x plus 4. So you would not put the f function into the g of x, you would look for something that has a g of x function. So this would be, example for things I'm going to substitute in for g of x would be maybe g of negative 3. All right, so this would go with this problem because it's a g of x, not the f of x problem. So be aware of that. They can put function notation, doesn't always have to be f. It can be g of x. It could be something, anything with that x next to it. But when you're inputting numbers in, you're looking for that same letter to go in for the x into the actual problem. Don't worry about this. It's just relating it to this.